Ladies, gentlemen, friends beyond the binary, welcome to the Monday Discourse for today, July 6th, 2020. Hello, everybody. So much to talk about. I obviously, you can tell, brand new office. Also, you can probably tell, as you can see, that box right there is full of my soundproof foaming, that this is going to be a little bit echoey until I get that all set up. But hey, it's Monday, it's noon, and we're doing a show. We'll see. What's it called? I don't know if this is going to be a thing that I keep doing. But I'm doing an experiment because my wonderful buddy Matt, the Thought Slime, has been experimenting with streaming on both platforms to see what happens. It's not technically following the rules, but hey, we'll see what happens. If I get too scared, maybe after this stream, I'll just go back to Twitch. But I thought that that would be a thing. So yeah, I am on YouTube. I'm streaming on YouTube as well to see if this is what I can get away with, because Slotsline's been doing it for weeks, and I thought that might be a way to reconnect with the audience that doesn't know that I'm on Twitch. Before I get into that, though, so there's a bunch of people on YouTube who are completely blown away by the fact that this is happening. Hi, everybody. Hello. So I'm gonna try to keep up with both chats. Might be a bit of a ask, but we'll see what happens. But I'll try to keep up. Yeah. All right. So what I probably should start with, though, is a really quick thing that is a little bit of a spiel about my stuff. So, for anyone who doesn't know, my name is Tristan Johnson. I'm the host of the YouTube channel Step Back History, and I am. My name is Tristan. I'm the host of Step Back History, and I stream on Mondays from 12 to 2, usually with Mia Mulder, who will be here in just a moment. I also do Step Back Tonight on Tuesday nights from 7 to 10. That's Step Back Tonight. That's my night show, or whatever you want to call it, my late night show. And then and then I am introducing, announcing for the first time. Thank you, Big Herman, for joining up. I have a big announcement, which is that I'm starting a new stream on Friday afternoons, which is going to be titled, at this point, just The Reactor. And what this is it's going to be a stream where people in the Discord community, but also I'm going to try to do the hashtag Step Back Reactor. So yeah, if you tweet that on Twitter, I'll be picking up stuff. So if you find things that you want me to look at and comment upon, I will gather those all up. And on Friday, there will be a stream where I look at things and react to them. So that'll be fun. I go by he, him pronouns, and my work can be found at stepbackhistory.com. Other things I want to mention is that for people over on Twitch, if you are a Twitch, if you have Amazon Prime and you are a fan of helping independent creators make their content, you get one Twitch subscription for free every month. And if you choose Step Back as your Twitch Prime subscription that you get once a month, you are going to help pay rent and, feed cats and all those things that I somehow do. So there's that. And also, if you haven't checked it out, I made a recent video on apartheid, and this week I am just getting into writing the research, or reading the research for my next video that should be coming out on July 31st. So that's, I think, all the things. So without further ado, why don't we try to get Mia in here?
Hello.
Ah.
Ha!
Hello, you made it.
Hello.
There was no technical issues. This is new.
I think so. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's finally working. Oh, thank God.
Well, hello, Mia. How are you today?
I'm doing as well as can be expected in these uncertain times.
In these
Yeah. In these uncertain times, where things are the way they are.
Hey, Doran Call, thank you for the subscription. Well, much appreciated. So yes, first of all, introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, of course. My name is Mia Mulder. I'm a YouTuber and also a former historian who does stuff on YouTube.
Yep.
I don't know. I really don't know what else to say. Are you she, her pronouns? Go to search my name and you'll find it. I make good videos.
You do.
I think.
I agree.
I have heard.
Hard agree. You might notice new set, new home.
Yeah, I have. You are no longer in the old place. You are now in the new place.
Yeah, I'm no longer. I was in a tiny. The thing is, the last place I was in was a solarium of a 600 square foot apartment, which means it was very teeny weeny. The camera that you saw would cover basically from the one side to the other. My desk was basically the width of my desk. But now I have a real office. This is just the stream look, but if you can see, there's a corner over there that's full of unmoved paraphernalia that once that is properly unpacked, because I literally moved on Friday. So
yeah, I can imagine you're still settling in.
Yeah, I'm still living in a sea of boxes, but once that's done, that's going to be a actual little place for shooting video. So it's been a bit since we last streamed together.
Sorry, what'd you say?
It's been a bit since we last streamed together. A lot of stuff's happened.
Has it? I keep forgetting what happens because I usually like really disconnect during the weekend, and then I always forget what happened like during the week.
Oh gosh, how do you even start? All right, so this is the Monday Discourse, the show that we do where we talk to you and about things.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm a good stand-in for the audience, also. So it kind of forces a recap into what's happening.
Yep. The first thing is the big discourse that I can recall right now is there has been progress on the ongoing meltdown of, I don't know what you would even call it, like J.K. Rowling Gate.
Oh God.
So J.K. Rowling Gate's still happening. She's now...
Yeah, because she will not stop posting, as we have previously established. It's also a pandemic currently.
Yeah, there is some people who have a biological condition where they are physically unable to stop posting, and it only hurts them, and they just they think that if they get themselves backed into a corner, that if they post their way out, that they'll get through this. Yes, that's a whole thing. Holy moly.
Yeah, I haven't really kept up with that, to be honest. I haven't really been able to muster up enough care about this fantasy children's book author. It's she posts the same old bad stuff that have been touted dozens of times before,
Yeah, and it's in response to the fact that now several people that work at the publishing office that publishes her books, a bunch of people have resigned from their job in protest of still having her as a client, and a bunch of Harry Potter fan sites have written that they basically disavow her and they're not going to stop reporting on her in the future.
Well, that makes me happy, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember. Maybe this was last week. Maybe not this the week that was. But I remember seeing a post about a Harry Potter big new AAA video game about Harry Potter, and in the feature list it was big world, a lot of customization options. J.K. Rowling has little input.
Yeah. Oh boy.
She's not involved. It's fine. We promise.
Makes sense to me.
It's really fun to just see the death of the author trope kind of happen in this way, where everyone just begs for the author to just stop.
Please, we want
Please.
to. You can't. You're literally stopping us from enjoying these books.
Yeah.
Stop with a H.
So many times people want authors to add to the universe and answer questions, and now everyone was just please be quiet, just stop.
You only added once to the universe. You just did rampant transphobia and talked once about shitting on the floor. We're good. You can stop now.
Oh, I forgot about that. I forgot about the shitting on the floor, but that was a good contribution. That's not a joke, by the way, audience. That's literally a canon contribution to the Harry Potter universe.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you, Girl It's Been Noticed, for the super chat. I think the thing with J.K. Rowling being a good example of some differences between popular feminism in North America versus the UK. Intersectional versus TERF stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is really weird because our transphobes are just bigots, they don't mask the bigotry. They're just I don't like these people. They're different from me, and that makes me mad. But in America,
they're pretty conservative.
Yeah, and then the UK, it's the true feminism is hating trans people. This is wait, and I that's not as big. That's not really much of a thing in North America. Our transphobia has a different flavor to it, which is really strange.
Yeah. By the way, everyone who's asking about what the hell we're talking about, so in some weird post, I don't fully remember what. It's entirely canon. There is a pre-toilet era of Hogwarts before toilets were invented, and the way J.K. Rowling actually this happened said that they did that was they just shat themselves and then magicked the poop away.
Yeah, they just apparated. Did you know that?
That's a thing that happened.
You're familiar with the Adventure Zone, right?
I am, yes.
So they've just started a new, or not? They just started. It's been around now for like 6 months or so. But they started a new D&D campaign that takes place at like a magic school, and they said that like shitting on the floor and teleporting it away is like a practical joke that they do to haze first years, is tell them that you can shit on the floor and then zap it away, but you can't.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
I have to. Oh, I'm so behind on the Adventure Zone. I need to catch up on that.
Me too. I still got to finish the urban fantasy one. Okay, so
yeah, that's kind of where I am at right now too.
So I hope that you guys. I'm hoping that you guys will. So I'm trying to stream on Twitch and YouTube right now.
Yeah, I saw that. You should be careful about that.
I know,
because
it's an experiment for now.
Yeah, be very careful because Twitch sometimes can they can get angry.
Okay, well, so the first question, I'm going to try to bounce between the two. So the first question, is this your wedding ring? And yes, it is. I got it off Etsy. It's made of titanium. It's pretty cool. Okay.
Titanium wedding ring? That's cool as hell.
Yeah. It means it's like extraordinarily durable, but it's also really light. Like it's like this ring looks like it's really thick, but it's actually like an extraordinarily light ring, which I like because I typically get uncomfortable when I'm wearing like jewelry and stuff like that because of the weight of it and everything. And then someone says, "Do you have a Discord?" Or you have a Discord? I do have a Discord. Is there a Mia Mulder Discord yet?
There is a Mia Mulder Discord. It's available for $20 patrons and up. So if you really want to be part of this like very narrow exclusive club, you can enter the Mia Mulder Discord. It's very exclusive, and that's because I don't have the social energy to manage a Discord server.
Yeah, so I just put an invite for the Step Back Discord, so you can totally join up if you feel like it. All right.
I have a very different taste in Discord than I feel like you and like most people do it, because like most people have like either public or like for basically everyone. I don't. How do you manage? How do you cope with that?
It's called. I have 2 or 3. I have like 4 moderators that are that hang around in there a lot more than I do, and they have a pretty good. They've learned like Birdie, who's a regular in the chat, is also one of my moderators, and they're pretty good at making sure that the jerks get the boot. But for the most part, like after the first wave of real weirdos, it's been pretty chill, and now it's sort of like a leftist history meme zone, which is, you know, a rare commodity in the year of our Ford 2020 on Discord.
That's nice.
It is. It's a beautiful place. And it has a very active meme chat, and now there's the Reactor channel where you can feed my insatiable lust to react to content because that's what people wanted. So the next question I got here is thoughts on JJ McCullough. Are you familiar with this person?
No.
It's probably not in your zone. So JJ McCullough is, as far as I can tell, I haven't. I get comments to check out this person and react to things that he does because JJ McCullough is a conservative Canadian politics YouTuber. And so basically just comments about conservative stuff. I don't watch a ton. I have watched half of one of his videos, and I'm just like, you know, I'm good.
That's enough for me, thanks.
See, that's the thing is a lot of people, and I think I talked to you about this once, the 2 genders of being a left-wing YouTuber are whether or not you are the kind of person who can sit through hours and hours of just the most horrible content imaginable. I'm a person who, when I research my videos, tends to want to read a lot of books by people who don't know what the internet is. Like right now I'm doing my next videos on Puerto Rico, and I'm doing a video, or I'm reading a thing on Puerto Rico right now, a book on Puerto Rico, and do I really want to know what some random conservative on the internet thinks of Puerto Rico? I don't know. I don't know. I don't really want to know like how Ben Shapiro is wrong about Puerto Rico, so that I can make my video what Ben Shapiro doesn't understand about Puerto Rico. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's really.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
But what's happening? What's happening with that guy, that person?
That guy. So JJ McCullough.
Yeah.
As far as I know, he just is like, he's kind of like a Dave Rubin of Canadian conservative politics. Like he's not. So like so first of all, he's not like what's it called? He's not. First of all, I think he's gay, like Dave Rubin is. Is Dave Rubin the one? I'm trying to. I can't remember which one's one.
They're so similar to each other. Like all those people who have talk shows and on the internet, they're very similar.
But also, he's unlike many Canadian conservatives that have YouTube channels. He hasn't gone down the full rabbit hole of being a like white nationalist.
Interesting. Well, that's good, at least, I think.
Yeah. So that's like the thing that like he's just like a conservative. Like I don't like his stuff is not. I don't find his stuff like that super interesting. That's about it. Like he's just like he's like the thing is like when you live in Canada, you see Canadian conservatives all the time because they get like a anti-Trudeau hashtag going about once a week about like, you know, Trudeau traitor or something like that, and it's like, yes, I know Trudeau sucks, but then they're like, he's a traitor because he's not like, okay,
he's too liberal. He's a socialist.
Canada has like 6 political issues, and like conservatives give a shit about like, we're not destroying the environment enough. That's when they're really interested in, because basically if the province of Alberta is not just turned into a rectangle full of tubes that are just pumping out oil in all directions to all corners of the planet, they think that we're not doing it correctly. Even though, like, you know, Trudeau's like, you know, violated Indigenous treaties and like invaded their territory to build pipelines through their homeland, they're still like, no, not doing enough, not building enough pipeline.
We need to be even worse.
Yes. You have to understand, like, conservatives in Canada are so horny for pipelines. It's actually like, you know how like there was the Keystone XL pipeline in the US a while back?
Yeah.
There's like 4 of those. There's like,
God.
And they're just so horny for pipelines.
It's just like horny for pipelines. It's like a really good title of a biography of like a really bad person.
Yeah.
Like we should write a biography of Justin Trudeau and just called "Horny for Pipelines."
Horny for pipelines.
It's like cellar door. It's like a wonderful word to say.
Yeah, and then the picture, we could do a Photoshop where it's like, you know, the Red Hot Chili Peppers with the sock.
What? No.
Okay, the Red Hot Chili Peppers did, I think it was like some promotional photos where they were wearing nothing but a sock over their genitalia. But we could do one of Trudeau, but it's with a pipeline. So,
oh, I love that.
Yeah, so that's one thing that Canadian conservatives care about. The other one, so social conservative stuff is kind of not like, it's not really in vogue to be for a Canadian conservative to be like, I don't like gay marriage, or I don't like abortion, or things like that. Like that's not really a thing that they talk a lot about. They're mostly like, they're now getting into like, I don't like that Muslims exist. That's like the big thing.
That's a big thing, yeah.
And typically they're like, we're spending too much, and we're not, you know, poor people are making money or have money, and we don't like that. That kind of, you know, like our conservatives are boring because they talk about the issues that like boring conservatives think about.
But this reminded me actually of a not so boring conservative who like right 5 minutes after we did our stream last week got banned from YouTube entirely. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Stefan Molyneux, the Canadian YouTuber. Yes.
Yeah, the greatest philosopher of all time. He's gone.
The Nazi crush was a pretty big deal. That's like a thing. Because Richard Spencer also got banned this week.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, there's one channel called Atheism is Unstoppable, which I only know of their existence because the only thing I know about them is they're like one of those, they're kind of like a quaint ancient genre that doesn't exist anymore, of the people who have a cartoon animal that like has like, you know, DreamWorks eyebrows and talks about SJWs being bad.
With the cross, they have like they always do this like a move to like it be a super like
Yeah,
really?
reasonable bear kind of characters.
Yeah.
So yeah, reasonablest bear. So that's a thing, and that's like, you know, that's where we're at. But yeah, so Sargon, this guy, and Richard Spencer, bam, bam, bam.
Sargon.
Or not Sargon, sorry. Sargon is still, unfortunately, still on YouTube, but that can't be confirmed because someone would have to watch his videos today for him to be confirmed to be still on YouTube, which I have not seen. I have not seen somebody post a thing. I have not seen somebody talk about Sargon of Akkad in so long that he could actually just not be making videos anymore, and I wouldn't know.
I think he is, but he has so effectively either recruited everyone that he can and shut out everyone else. So like, despite having like a significant amount of views, it never leaves like his kind of echo chamber.
Yeah.
Of his community, which is very funny.
He tried to run for European Parliament and shit himself so hard it was like
he destroyed the party itself.
Yeah, he basically destroyed an entire political party by running in it. Like, holy crap.
Everything he touches just turns awful. It's great.
Yeah, didn't he also? Isn't he? He's one of the guys who like ranted against Anita Sarkeesian for years and years and years, and then did a Kickstarter for a video game that then never manifested.
Yeah, it was like a Diablo clone or something. And begged for money for it, didn't make it. Talked about how it would have like a working prototype in like 2014 or some shit. But also like in the same amount of time, like ranted so much against Anita Sarkeesian because she like begged for money to make a show that she didn't make. Except of course, you know, that she did make it and didn't actually like waste the money.
She then made it and used, because the thing is, like, what happened was that it took her a while, because when you ask for $10,000 and get like $500,000, you then have to completely change the scope of your project.
Yeah, you need to find a way to spend it.
And so she'd made like an entire curriculum and stuff like that. I'm still surprised by how many people like that are normal, rational people are still have like completely out bonkers opinions when it comes to Anita Sarkeesian. It's like one of my friends.
I mean, it really shifted the entire like zeitgeist conversation so much that so many people like the entire what's it called like the window of normality has like shifted entirely. Mm-hmm. Because as you say, like a lot of normal, reasonable people were like, well, you know, she scammed money, and it's like,
yeah,
no.
She very
based on what?
She very obviously didn't. Also, yeah, yes. Okay. The other thing I got here is.
Sorry, we got way up.
Yeah, we were talking about J.G. McCullough at one point, I think. Yeah. But for anybody who's the first time watching the show, this is on brand, like so on brand. All right, if COVID somehow just went away, like suppose Thanos clicked away all the viruses, do you think Trump's approval rating would recover between now and November? How much of Trump's like collapse is due to COVID specifically? Because I would say a lot.
Yeah, I always think like primarily it's COVID.
Because before COVID, the economy was doing okay, and everyone thought that he was going to sail towards re-election because the Democrats had like just explosive diarrhea during their primary process and chose just an absolute turd as their like somebody who would never pull double digits of votes outside of explicitly Democratic primaries that are explicitly just to destroy one Jewish man from being president.
Mm-hmm. Well, like if it went away, I think his approval numbers would soar because like he would just take credit for it going away.
It's true.
Like and then everyone would, because he's really good at like co-opting things that just happen anyway and just saying that they are because of him or that they're not because of him.
Yeah. Have you seen this? There's a picture of him that surfaced from something recently, and it's one of the best pictures of Trump ever put together or ever conceived. I'm gonna send you the picture, but I'm also gonna put them in the chat.
Yes. Yeah, like he keeps getting like from new angles. He's very good at like maintaining an image of how he's supposed to how he's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
Which makes it so wild when we actually see like who he is, because like in almost every single public appearance, we don't actually see like a human person. We see like a facade of a human person.
Yeah, you can see that this involves like there's so much going on to just keep the artifice going.
Oh yeah, it's a real like Potemkin village, but it's a human being.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe a human being. We're not quite sure yet.
So it's so bananas. But yeah, I think that COVID is basically, and I mean, rightfully so. Like, COVID is a big enough thing to have taken down Donald Trump's campaign, because the response to it probably is, even with a presidency as bad as his, probably the worst thing that he's done in the entire 4 years of his term.
Oh yeah. I feel like a pandemic like this could like bring down entire nations. So I'm surprised it hasn't already. And I would be surprised. If it wouldn't have affected Donald Trump as much as it has. Yep. And I'm glad it has, because like the response to it has been pretty bad.
Yeah.
Just wish there was some kind of outrage towards the Swedish way of dealing with it too.
I wish, yeah,
because like in America it was poorly handled and people got angry at it. In the UK and Sweden, people are just like going steady.
The non-Sweden and non-UK countries, like you can see the trend going down, and America is just going half pipe.
Half pipe is, yeah. I mean, you're right.
It's
Christ.
Someone just said, "Hey Tristan, I got a Means TV subscription the other day, and I didn't know that you and Thought Slime were on Means TV." Yeah, it's true. Oh yeah, there's going to be probably some stuff coming up because of the fact that Matt Thought Slime mentioned me in a video and it referenced Dungeons and Dragons, so that will come up probably.
Nice.
Okay, let's see. All right, next up we got question: can you explain or give a story on how Thought Slime ruins your D&D games?
Well, there we go.
Yeah. So he said in the video that he likes to destroy my D&D games for fun and profit, or for fun. Because he said that destroying it for political reasons is bad, but destroying it for fun is great. And I did the one story that comes to mind. So first of all, his character, him in the game, is very much his personality is very much, he's one of the big actors in the game. Like, you know, his sense of humor definitely comes out in the games. He's definitely the goofball of the group and always has been. But one of the things that he also likes to do is he's the person who likes to start shit, which means that he's always the person who's starting like inter-party fights and stuff like that. So like, for example, he has one character that has died, and the big storyline right now is that they're trying to get his character back from hell. But then he played a second character who was like based on Geralt of Rivia type character, but everybody is so like associated with like dark stuff and the occult and like unnatural magic that this character was just a dick to everybody in the party. And the new character that he's playing after that character did not work out because Bloodhunter, not exactly a great class. He decided to play a sorcerer who's based on Saul Goodman. So this character is basically always trying to swindle people out of things and trying to do cons. And because he's a sorcerer, he has like 20 charisma or something like that. So he just like has probably, this is getting like kind of really into the nuts and bolts, but so like charisma is like the stat that you use when you're trying to like, you know, convince people of things. And he has everything stacked up so that he can like, try to lie to somebody or try to convince somebody of something and then roll, and then he'll get like plus 15 to the roll so he can just like fuck with everything.
Oh, I love that.
So that's him. That's our wonderful boy. That's and also yeah, and also the fact that his character died has a lot to do with the fact that this has happened maybe about a year and a bit ago. Is that they were hunting down a vampire, and he decided that his character really wanted to become a vampire. And so, like, left the party, ran forward, and intentionally tried to die in the fight so that he could become a vampire. Then spent a year in the game, like a year of real life time, being a character that is a vampire. So we had to get him a leather gimp suit so he could go out in the sun, and and also he had to.
Why a gimp suit though? There's so many other things.
It's, you know what, Dungeons and Dragons is a special game.
That's true.
And also just like having like a lawful good paladin in the party, and like people who are fairly like there's like a two druids and stuff, and he's just like increasingly becoming evil and more unnatural and stuff. And so yeah, it's been a whole thing. And also his character's name, that character was Mink Drenu, which was based on the fact that when we first made our characters, we were in a bar, and he made it off of drink menu. And then found out that that was like his nickname, and that his real name is Minkus, and has like this kind of like Urkel voice. So like he just constantly is doing this kind of stuff. It's just one after the other after the other.
It's a lot of chaotic energy, which is good in a D&D game.
Yeah, just that gives you a flavor of the kinds of things he does. I've been thinking about making a fantasy story that is medieval/antiquity inspired, and I don't want to be a reactionary like a lot of fantasy is. Do you have any tips for that?
Don't be racist.
Yeah, don't be racist.
Okay.
Definitely, I think the big thing that you want to do is that happens in fantasy a lot is the essentializing of people based on their species. Like,
yes.
If you really want to have like, and if you want to really undermine the idea, you could be like, oh yeah, we're gonna go hunt orcs, and then they find the orcs are actually just like normal people.
Yeah.
Like
you can take a lot of, because a lot of like racial tropes are based around that, so it's always good to like take that and subvert it.
Yeah. Like, for example, one of the things I'm doing with my D&D game at some point is that orcs are sort of have a culture based on Mongols and, like, Central Asian steppes people, which, like, definitely were known for raiding and pillaging, but they, were a lot more complicated than that.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I would say making sure that everybody has complex interests and that nobody does anything just because they're evil, and to not essentialize things based on the conditions of their birth, that kind of thing.
But there's also like, yeah, I'm trying to come up with like another type of advice too, because this is like really good advice, but part of it is also like write complex characters that have depth, which is like, yeah, but that's kind of how like I don't think we have. Maybe we don't have to give advice to how to write in a like non-racist or reactionary way, because like people who do that are bad writers.
Mm-hmm.
So like it just the fact that you're aware of the tropes and trying to avoid them means that you're a better writer than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's some people who there is like some concrete things where you could just like, sometimes people will just be like, all right, I'm just going to map this culture onto these people and not do the research, not do the legwork, and not like study it. Like, so if you're going to like say make the orcs the Mongols as an example, then read about what Mongol life was like, because if you're just going to rely on kind of cultural myths and stereotypes, it's going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, that's a really good answer. Like,
do the research, especially when you're talking about cultures that are not yours.
Mm-hmm. And in the historical way, not in the Lord of the Rings way, where you just like do a lot of language research, which is very nice, but also have a lot of like racist stuff in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and also, yeah, realize that Tolkien was a product of his time. Like, he was like on the woke side for somebody in 1910.
Yeah.
So, just like appreciating that these people were of their time and that we can do better. And also just read a lot of fantasy. Like, read like fantasy that's not written by like old white dudes, because there's a lot of good stuff out there that would. I'm trying to remember what the name of that. I all the time, because of what I read, mostly like read Ursula Le Guin, but I was like, oh, she's a sci-fi author. But read Ursula Le Guin, please. All right, who do you think will be the next conservative leader in Canada? Tristan's answer to that is, I actually haven't been following the race all that closely, so I don't know which. All I know is I don't know if there's any. I probably would have heard in the news if there was like a actual like nasty Kelly Leach type character who was like actually like being like, I hate the Muslims, I hate this, I hate that. Let's go like super retrograde. So it sounds like it's a bunch of stuffed shirts that are saying we need to cut taxes and cut services for people. That's about all I can tell. But I haven't actually looked all that closely because I have no stake in the Conservative Party leadership race going on right now, obviously. But the only fun thing is, do you know why there's a Conservative leadership race happening right now?
No idea.
So the leader of the party was Andrew Scheer, who ran in the 2019 election last year. And it looked like he was going to stick around after the election was over. He was going to stay leader. But then a fun little news story came up where it was revealed that he was using party funds to put his kids in private school. And the party largely forgave him for it, but he decided to resign over it.
Oh, come on.
So like they're basically like, I'm going to resign and we're going to choose a new leader, but I'll just run the party until that's done. But yeah, Andrew Scheer. It's the only time that the Conservatives have ever paid for education or have ever, yeah.
Damn. I don't really have an answer for the question itself because I don't know anything about Canadian politics, really.
You're better off that way. All right. In a supposed post-racial, post-gender world, what's more likely to be the case? Categories being abolished, no race, no gender, or being individualized, 10 billion genders? Or would these be functionally different at all? I would hope. So the thing is, like, here's the thing about this is like the cent. Oh man, I'm about to get real big brain on this. The central tension of the human condition is that in a great world, in a world that is just and fair, everyone would be approached individually, and we would like everything would be taken as what it is and not trying to be put in boxes, because when you make boxes, you make assumptions. When you make assumptions, you make wrong assumptions and you hurt people. But we are biological animals that have a brain that is, it seems, hardwired to be obsessed with categorizing things for easy understanding, because it's impossible for us to not make these like heuristics to try and understand complex things, because, we're not that smart. And I feel like our need to understand things needing heuristics versus our need to, versus like how the world actually is like at the core of so many different things. It's at core with what you're talking about with race, with gender, with all this stuff. And I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, I don't think anyone really does. I would hope that it would be like a billion genders, but I don't know.
If you want a book that is like an actual like reading on hard mode book, you've known these books. It's called Continental Philosophy, but there's a book called Body Without Organs, which is an idea of kind of hacking the idea of categorization as a thing that we do. It's one of the more complicated books I've ever read in my life. And that's somebody who in 2015, 2016 had to read over 100 books for comps. So it's like this like kind of like anti-categorization idea. And so I don't know where to go from there, but trust me, if you have an answer, you're a smarter person than I am. and I feel like there's a lot of awards for you.
Oh,
in
for
the
sure.
future.
It's a lot of. I mean, you got a future in like deep philosophy if you can pull that off, really.
Thank you, everybody, congratulating me on leaving the market. Yeah, I moved to London. That's where I live now, which is actually kind of small city here. Will you debate JJ McCullough? If it was on a topic that made sense, sure, but I would not. I'm not typically big into like the WWE style stream debates. I don't watch them. I don't really care about them. But if it was like we're going to talk about an issue, sure, be down. And is Stefan Molyneux from Quebec? No, he is from Minnesota, or not Minnesota, Mississauga. He lived pretty close. He lived pretty close to me for a long time. He used to have barbecues every summer and stuff like that. Back when he used to just be like an anarcho-capitalist cult leader.
Back when he just was a cult leader, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Before he realized that thank you, Workfall. Thank you for following. Okay. Tucker Carlson 2024. Do you think that's possible?
It's possible, but it's cursed.
Yeah, why would you put that out in the universe?
Oh my god, it's gonna happen. We're gonna manifest it.
I don't like.
Oh, I don't like that. Oh.
It would be in our day when journalists are such like celebrities in their own right that like it would totally happen.
Yeah, I can 100% see it happen. This is not at all like not even like unreasonable, but it's not even unlikely.
Yeah,
like this could happen.
I definitely think that Tom Cotton is getting ready to try and sign up to. Like, you could if you were to pitch a novel about American politics, American political thriller, where the villain is a white supremacist by the name of Tom Cotton, they would throw it out for being too melodramatic. Okay, who's worse?
Yes, sorry, keep going.
Oh yeah, who's worse, Stephen Harper or Justin Trudeau? I would say that Stephen Harper was worse. He was much more of like an open nationalist and did much more openly racist stuff. But like economically, they are both identical. Trudeau did more for disarming leftist opposition to the government, but not as much as I thought it would. Nobody really likes Trudeau anymore. People liked Trudeau in 2015, and now everybody is just like, well, it's either him or the Conservatives.
A real race to the bottom of politics.
Yeah, first past the post, healthy thing. Okay.
A lot of Canadian questions.
Yeah, I wonder why that is. Because it's not an interesting country. In the last few years, the writers of Law and Order SVU have been trying to make characters more woke on trans rights. I'm sure I'm terrified about what that means. I'm sure they have good intentions, but is it misleading to imply a trans person can go into a New York police station and not get mistreated? Yeah, fairly.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, I appreciate entertainment shows trying to become more woke on trans issues, but like, especially Law and Order, who has like a very specific history with like trans tropes. But still, I don't know. That seems weird. That seems weird. I think even Brooklyn Nine-Nine has kind of touched with it better than that, and they have barely mentioned that trans people exist beyond transphobia bad, which is like, I think, the best you can expect from a cop show.
Yeah, because like also, I don't know if like in America, trans people just get fucking murdered like a lot, and cops don't do anything about it. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's portraying a sort of false reality, which when you're trying to like when you're doing Star Trek, that's a good thing because you're trying to model an ideal world. But when you're trying to model the real world, if you like have like a trans person who goes to the police and has a normal experience, that is, if it's whitewashing. There's really no other way to say it, right?
Yeah. I that's a good way to say it.
Tristan, do you have any thoughts on Dmitry Lascaris running for the Green Party leader? So yeah, also the Green Party is going through its leadership race too. Our little political party that has a single MP. I don't know anything about what's going on in the Green Party either. What I'm learning right now is I have been so checked out on the news and politics in the last few months, and I don't know why. But thank you for the super chat. I much appreciate that, Matt Lipton. Okay. Is the U.S. still dominated by the conservative silent majority, or the recent demonstration indicate a real paradigm shift? And if yes, why Bernie lost and conservative Biden won?
I mean, in the American zeitgeist, like, Biden isn't a conservative. I mean, he is, like everywhere else. But in America, Biden is seen as like a moderate Democrat.
Yeah.
Which is kind of considered left in a weird way.
Mm-hmm.
But like the silent majority thing isn't true, like, at all, because the reason why moderates and conservatives in general like win elections is because of like election fraud almost all the time. Like, it's first past the post systems, it is voter suppression, it is redistricting, it's gerrymandering. It's all of these things combined is what helps conservatives win elections. And the more right wing they are, the more help they need from these kind of like undemocratic methods of gaining votes.
Yeah, like the thing is, like, if you can't really say, like, the people were coming to the conclusion Biden won, therefore America is more conservative than we thought. Like, if you didn't have situations where, like, hey, look, all the places where Biden won are the places where it was harder to vote, and like all the places where Biden won are places where all of the university campuses had like 13-hour long lines to vote, and you had people out there till like 3 a.m. just waiting to put their ballots in. Like, there was obvious electoral suppression. And then the end where it was like, hey, vote for, like, what's it called? Like, if you go out to vote for me, but also you'll die. Like, the fact that, like, because, like, you know, Sanders was like, let's take the disease seriously, and Biden was like, let's take the disease seriously, but only after I get elected.
Please vote for me in this final stages of the primary. Yeah, and then wear masks.
Yeah, like, the one thing I think I will never ever forgive Biden for, and I hope that, like, people will never forget as he's like campaigning against Trump for not handling COVID well, was that he was the one who was constantly insistent that the primaries not be stopped or not be delayed, because he didn't care about how many people died as long as he became the presidential nominee over Bernie. Yeah. And that they only started delaying primaries and they only started changing things once Bernie dropped out, which makes me think that was, like, not unintentional.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, next up we got, do you think the Liberals and the NDP will merge similar to that Reform Party and the Progressive Conservative Party? More Canada! Okay, so the Liberal Party is our center-right party, the one that Justin Trudeau belongs to, and the NDP are our Social Democratic Party. So it's a social, and there's always been talk that these two will merge at some point, because there was a point where we had two conservative parties and they merged in the early 2000s. And so there's this idea that at some point the Liberals and the NDP will merge and become like a center-left party versus the center-right party. But it's never happened. And the NDP, I think, know that they have more power exerting influence from being, like, they're usually the third party, and in minority governments they're usually kingmaker, which I don't know if that's the word you guys use in Sweden, but
no, but we get what it is.
Yeah, so very often they can get key concessions in liberal minority governments because they need NDP votes to pass something, like we have right now. So I think that.
No, you keep going.
Oh, it shows that like, there's a fundamental political, like it's a very shallow reading of left and right wing politics to think that a liberal party and a social democratic party are similar enough that they could merge. That's
Yeah.
all. Because their approach to what politics is about is completely different. Like the Liberal Party is a party that does progressive social stuff, but always governs to right on economic stuff, and I don't think the NDP would ever ride that. Okay.
I don't know. I don't know shit about Canadian politics.
It's I hope I'm making sense.
You are making sense. It's just like I don't really have a lot to like
Yeah,
answer the question with.
makes sense. All right, on the last episode of Behind the Police, Robert Evans speculated that if support for the police stays low, propaganda shows, i.e. like Law & Order, SVU, might go away in the future. Do you think that's particularly likely? Yes.
Yeah. Or at least become like a bit more proportional, because it's weird how many cop shows there are.
Yeah,
like there aren't that many firefighter shows.
Like over half of network shows are police procedurals in America.
Yeah, which is wild. Speaking of which, have you seen the new Snowpiercer show on Netflix?
No, is it good?
No, it's a police procedural.
Oh, but the movie was made by the guy who made Parasite, and it's like an anti-capitalist movie. How do you turn an anti-capitalist movie into a police procedural?
It's weird. It changes genre like halfway through too. So it starts out as a police procedural and turns into some weird sci-fi bad show. It's not a good show.
I'd rather watch the movie, I think.
The movie.
But like,
speaking of cop procedurals.
yeah, but like, so in the wake of all of the protests that have been going on for a little over a month now, there have been like cops got canceled after being on the air for 30 years.
Which is wild.
Yeah, and like there's some other cop stuff that has been tamped down too, to the point where like I actually do think that some of these shows like Law and Order, SVU, and such, maybe Law and Order because Law and Order is a little bit more of a lawyer show than a cop show, but there are when it comes time to like renew seasons of like, I don't know, what's a cop show now? I don't know any cop shows, sadly, because I don't watch much TV, but when it comes to renew a cop show, they might be like, I don't know, like if we renew this, it might be bad press, and that actually.
So they're in the process of making a new season of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which is kind of like a cop show, but not really in the traditional sense, because it's more like a comedy and they're a bit more woke, but it's still a cop show. They apparently like scrapped 4 scripts since the protests began, and like. Probably not because they were like super weird, but because I think they want to like deal with the fact that these protests keep happening. Mm-hmm. So they want to like, I'm guessing that they want to like make a woke stand on the issue while still kind of being a cop show, because they are all of the characters are cops, so they have to like. Yeah. They're in a weird position where they try to be as woke as they can while also being cops, which is right now being more and more mutually exclusive.
Especially because like it's made by a bunch of like Saturday Night Live people, right?
Yeah.
So I imagine that also that they're sympathetic with the protests, and then making a cop show, it's going to be difficult too.
Yeah, and like they've had like episodes previously too where they have been like stepped back a little bit from the cop role and talk about like systemic racism and sexism and stuff like that. But it's really interesting because I feel like it's kind of unsustainable in the long term because the kind of tonal shift in America right now has shifted a lot, being from like we should reform police into just straight up abolishment of police. Which is a good tonal shift, but like I don't think cop shows can survive that tonal shift if it sustains itself.
That's true. Oh boy. Okay. Next up, we got up Tristan. Who do you usually vote for? I usually vote NDP. I usually campaign for them too because, probably will again because now I'm back in a liberal district. Lucky me.
Nice.
I left an NDP district and moved to a liberal one, with somebody who I actually know. So I'm gonna be campaigning to defeat my wife's friend's fiance.
Ooh.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, here we go. Okay. Next up, would Kanye? Oh yeah, this is another thing. Kanye West announced he's running for president finally.
Oh, right, I forgot.
The fact that that's not as big a news as it should have been.
It got drowned out by like everything else, I think.
Yeah.
Well, good on him. I have no idea why. He has a lot of chaotic energy that I can't keep up with.
Yeah. And also a lot of signs that he just doesn't understand most things. Like the fact that like he's a big Trump supporter and like has worn Trump hats and like he's
But regarding that, I have heard that he did like a statement a while ago that was all a prank, and apparently all the donations he's done to the Trump campaign, well, they were actually towards some other good thing. So, from what I've heard, from via rumor, is that his entire Trump phase was like a prank or something like that.
Kanye dimensional chess.
Like I don't think we can ever understand the political like machinations behind Kanye West, because like I don't think even he fully understands how it works.
He's gonna win, isn't he?
I mean, yeah. Distron in the chat is saying Trump is the president. Anyone can be president is more real now than ever.
Like the thing is, like I want to meet one person who is a non-ironic Kanye West supporter. That's the yeah.
Yeah, I need that.
Do you expect the Liberal Party to go the way of the PC? Wow, so many like really like in-depth Canadian politics references. Do you expect the Liberal Party to go the way of the PC Party? No, the Liberal Party is doing fine right now with Justin Trudeau. They're fine. Unless you're talking about the Ontario Liberal Party, in which case they might actually lose. There's like a reasonable chance Ontario might actually have a what's it called? They might actually get an NDP government in Ontario for the first time since I was a baby, which would be cool. All right.
Nice.
Given that sex work is slowly becoming more visible, should we start getting more worried about SWERFs as well as TERFs?
I mean, yeah.
It's way more mainstream to be SWERF than a TERF, I think.
Yeah, I think there's gonna have to be like a big, like large scale reform, but that's kind of where. No, that's not true, is it? Fuck. I was just gonna say that's similar to how like trans stuff is becoming visible, but that's not true because like early feminism was also a bit more trans inclusive before it like became worse, and now it's becoming better again. Whereas feminism has always been very anti-sex work, almost since the beginning.
Yeah, third wave is like the only like. There's like the most pro-sex work feminism might be like early 90s Riot Girl Manifesto type, like early third wave feminism.
Yeah.
Until it got out of academia and became, bougie stuff. But I would say
yeah. It would have to be like big, like fundamental, almost like a entirely new wave of feminism, probably.
Yeah,
to incorporate all of the ideas that would have to be incorporated.
Because like third wave feminism was supposed to be about choice, but that never seemed to extend to sex work. And in our age where you have Sesta Fosta, which was a law that was very discriminatory towards sex workers that was passed in America, and even like progressive, like even Bernie Sanders supported it. Then you have like, the crackdown on OnlyFans that's been going on, and like this kind of stuff. And and the problem is that these aren't tools that make sex work proliferate. This is stuff that makes sex work safe.
Yeah.
And
like Sesta Fosta was like universally condemned by like almost everyone as being like this will make sex work like more exploitative and more dangerous because it's taking away avenues where people can do sex work safely and like securely. A lot of anti-sex work measures are actually just about like hiding it rather than actually like making things good for the people who work in it.
Okay, who's your favorite Canadian Prime Minister? Lester B. Pearson, because he ended the Suez Crisis, but for nothing else, because Canada hasn't really had any great prime ministers. Let's be honest. We had, like, what's it called? Our George Washington was a drunken racist asshole who, like, literally got so drunk that he passed out in Parliament. Yeah, this is how important our country is. We are not an important country. Oh yeah, and also someone did point out, last week somebody did try to assassinate Trudeau. He was caught before he could do it, but yeah, someone was caught.
Really?
Yeah, someone was caught in Ottawa with a rifle with plans to assassinate the prime minister, but they didn't really. I don't think they've spilled the beans on what they were trying to do, but there was a guy who was arrested with a gun in Ottawa. It got diffused, like, you know how, like, these kinds of stories, because it got diffused before anything happened, it didn't really get that big. But
damn,
I did see that story. Yeah,
that's interesting. Like, wow, I didn't peg Trudeau being that controversial of a prime minister.
The right has been getting agitated and angry about him to, like, a unreasonable extent because of. They're getting mad about masks too. Like, there's now conservative conspiracy theorists who are getting mad about masks and lockdown and everything. Okay, in the last decades, public education has been attacked and defunded in North and South America and England. Did that trend affect Sweden too?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
In the last decades, public education has been attacked and defunded in North and South America and England. Did this trend affect Sweden too?
Kind of. It affected Sweden more in the way that, like, private education has taken a larger role in Swedish education, like privately run schools and stuff. We don't really have the thing, because homeschooling is practically illegal in Sweden, so you can't do that. I don't think we have, like, exclusive schools in the same way as, like, you pay a lot of money and you go to school only for people who pay that amount of money. We don't really have that. I think we have elements of that, but we don't really have that. But what we do have is, like, we have government-run schools and we have privately run schools, but they all get tax money. And uniquely for, like, the world, a privately run school here can profit while also accepting tax money to run it, which means that they can just take taxpayer money by not spending it on school supplies, which is awful in its own way. However, that's kind of how the kind of defunding measure has gone, where people want to funnel money from like publicly run schools into privately run schools. But it hasn't worked out at all. It's like it's awful. Because it turns out when school corporations set their own grades and the result of a school is grades, they will just give out good grades because then everyone will say that the school is doing fine.
Yeah. So
we had a bit of a crisis, and we still do, kind of, because we never really resolved it, where if you go to a privately run school in Sweden, you will get better grades, like almost even no matter what your test results are. Like, you're not going to get, like, all A's, but you will get better grades than if you were in a publicly run school, because in a public run school, they don't have to perform. They don't have to look good. They just have to do good. Whereas a privately run school just has to look good, so they can get more taxpaying money, so they can profit from it, so they can give it to shareholders.
Capitalism's such a good system, the most efficient system there is, actually.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And that also translates into, like, private schools trying to, like, lure in more and more students, so they have higher application numbers, so they can also apply for more money. It's
like, that's actually, like, the most perfect description of capitalism I've ever seen.
Yeah. It looks great, but it's actually awful. It churns out nothing. I hate the private school system here. But because they also give out a bunch of perks to lure in more students who go to these schools, they get good grades and they get good perks. But then they get to university and they actually don't. They don't actually maybe have the education that they should have.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
Such good, many efficient. Wow.
Love capitalism.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you see the Belgian liberal who wanted to ban strikes during weekdays because she genuinely thought you can strike on your days off?
I didn't see that, but I'm not surprised.
Makes sense with Belgium. I mean, actually, no, because in Belgium, you actually only work on Saturday and Sunday. That's like a little known fact about them. Because every other day is chocolate day.
I love non-Europeans talking about like chocolate countries in Europe because it always changes. I never understand which one it is. Is it Switzerland, Austria, Germany, the Netherlands, or Belgium? Like I
always think it's
sometimes it's Sweden.
I always think it's Belgium and Switzerland.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I don't get it.
What's you two religion? Oh boy, this one will be fun. And this one is kind of a spoiler for your upcoming video of yours. What's you two religions?
Sorry, what?
What's you two religions?
I don't understand the questions. What's you two religions?
I think that's what's our religions.
Oh, wow. I wouldn't describe myself as an atheist or as an agnostic, but I also don't really subscribe to any mainstream organized religion,
The Raven.
or any organized religion for that matter.
You worship the Raven.
I worship the Raven, Grimnir, the hooded one, Glimnir. These are all names for Odin. No, I have some pagan tendencies, but I wouldn't say that I'm like a hardcore believer in like anything really. But it's always nice to have a little prayer sesh sometimes, you know, even if I don't necessarily 100% believe in anything.
Hey, thank you, Papa Oliver, for hosting. Much appreciated. Yeah, I would consider myself agnostic. I put myself as I talked about this a lot. I said I'm an apatheist, which is that I don't actually particularly. I don't see like agnostic. People tend to think that means that you don't know, but there's a deeper answer. And agnostic means that you don't think the question is answerable one way or the other. And then what I would say, apatheist, which is the one that I add on to that, which is that I also don't think it's a very important question that would affect my life if it was answered either way.
That's an interesting answer, yeah.
Because I don't particularly think that if a God existed, I am under any obligation to do what it says.
Oh, yeah. That's kind of also, I think because like a lot of religion is like extremely personal too, like just in terms of interpretations. So like, I think that we have like basically the exact same worldview on this issue, but it expresses itself in different ways, right? And that's the case for like anyone too. And I think that's so interesting and so fascinating how that happens, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the most likely answer of God being real has to do with reality being a simulation. But oh,
I don't like that because that just means that God is like
some grad student,
alien Elon Musk.
Oh no,
Cyber Musk. I'm not a huge fan of God being Cyber Musk.
I used to give that idea more credence until I realized that it's Elon Musk who's the person who says that he believes it, which makes it less likely to be true.
Yeah. But also, like, when it comes to religion, I also, like, as I said, like, I don't fully 100% believe in anything, but also sometimes it is kind of cool to be like, what's up, Odin? What's your thing? But that's probably more cultural than actual religious.
Mm-hmm.
I have not sacrificed to the hooded one.
You haven't hung somebody as a shield maiden of Odin?
I have not yet.
Okay. Aren't people who work at big publishing houses used to publishing books written by terrible humans? I mean, John Bolton just came out with a book.
I mean, I guess it depends on the publishing house.
Yeah.
Like some publishing houses are like where normal people print books, and then we have publishing houses where like edgy people print books. And I think the J.K. Rowling thing is like, she was with a kind of like semi-progressive publishing house where like progressive people worked, and they were kind of just being like, whoa, what the fuck? And like there's a bit of a like change in
And there was actually friction involved because like those people resigned because their bosses told them that they couldn't, like they asked to not work on J.K. Rowling stuff, and their bosses refused to let them do that, and so they quit over it. So
yeah, and I feel like a lot of publishing houses have that, at least should have that freedom, whereas like if there's something you don't want to work on, you don't have to. But they were just inflexible, so push came to shove.
It's easy to see the benefits of legalizing recreational drugs. It's easy to see the benefits of legalizing recreational drugs and sex work. But what about gambling? Can it ever be good? What's the damage society experiences from criminalizing it?
From gambling?
Yeah.
I mean, I personally think gambling is like a really bad thing. Gambling for money, anyway. Because, I mean, it doesn't really provide anything good. Like, it's a sort of entertainment, but there are many other sort of entertainment that doesn't exactly ruin people's lives financially by doing it. In a world where money isn't an issue, gambling would probably be a lot more cooler. Like if you could gamble about like luxury food tokens or whatever, like, oh no, I lost my champagne this month, but I'm still fine and I can go home and rest in bed and I don't have to worry. But right now we live in a society where gambling causes people to like lose their entire lives.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
It shouldn't be like that. But that's not gambling's fault, but gambling is a facilitator to that.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I mean, like, gambling is like it exploits parts of our brain in ways I think are unfair. But also, I think I'm a bit more of a libertarian in the sense that like, it's not really my job. I don't really feel like it's my job or the government's job to tell people what they can and can't do. And also, it's also a thing that if you don't have it done in a, non-criminal fashion, it'll just turn into a criminal empire because typically whenever you make something illegal, instead of stopping people from doing it, what you do is you just move it into criminal element.
Yeah. Which is also why it's like gambling. It's not the fault of it. It's more like capitalism is the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
as it is with so many things.
As we are back. That should just be the name of the show. We talk about what's going on and why capitalism is the problem.
Although at the same time, like I play a lot of poker. Like I play a lot of online poker.
It's a fun game.
It's a fun game.
Did you know that
I never win, but
did you know that comedy metal exists and is actually quite funny? Comedy metal.
What?
Okay, I did not know comedy metal. When I think of comedy metal, I think of like there's a band called Fin Troll, which
I have no idea.
They do it, or what's that other one where they dress up like they're aliens and spray goo at the audience and stuff? Gwar. That's what I was thinking of. Fin Troll is something I think you would find extremely fascinating. We'll talk a little bit about it after the stream's over because I think you want to know what this is. But it is basically a mix of like Celtic, like Celtic folk music and like black metal.
Ooh, I like the sound of it.
Yeah, it's some pretty great stuff. It's pretty fun. And it's extraordinarily Scandinavian. Like, you could not get more Scandinavian than something like that.
Beautiful.
You want obscure Canadian politics questions? What are your opinions on the Atlantica Party from Nova Scotia? Again, never heard of it. Okay. Is Boris more conservative than Biden on immigration? After I asked which one of them is more conservative last week, I posted the same question on a conservative-leaning by our standards subreddit, and several responders claim that Boris is more anti-immigration. Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, I would say so too.
Yeah, I would say that Boris Johnson is fairly far to the right of Biden on things like immigration. Because that's become a wedge issue in America where you can only go so far to the right as a Democrat. All right. Wasn't there a Tory dude in Parliament who called an NDP MP a prostitute because she showed concern for sex workers? I do think that did happen.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Gotta love Canada. If people ship two fictional characters played by actors, are they shipping the actors or the characters or both? What do we do then?
You're shipping the characters, and that's fine.
Yeah.
That's my hot take. I think that's entirely fine. Shipping the actors is kind of where the problem goes. So, like, and you see this with YouTubers too. Like, no one's really complaining where someone's portraying a character and shipping that character within the character. That's mostly harmless fun. But sometimes there can be like an overlap where you start shipping characters. So, like, if you were to ship the actors playing like Mulder and Scully from the X-Files, which can, like, you can kind of slide over into that by shipping their characters, that would become problematic. But like, there's a line there, and as long as you abide by the line, it's all good.
Yeah. Just keep it fake.
Just keep it fake.
Okay.
Another good title for a biography.
Yep. Okay, question for Mia. Is Stefan Löfven good or bad? How leftist is the Swedish Social Democratic Party? Is Jeremy Corbyn or Tony Blair?
Oh, more Blair than Corbyn, 100%. So the current Swedish government, headed by Stefan Löfven, it is lefty, kind of. They have to rely on support from the Left Party, which is the former Communist Party, which kind of drags them a lot to the left, and that's kind of what they do in a lot of elections. So as long as they win enough to like be able to start a minority government with passive support from the Left Party, they're good. But they have to give concessions to the left. However, in this elections, no coalition really got enough votes to form a government either way, because the Swedish Democrats got too many votes, and the Swedish Democrats are Nazis, and both coalitions have like promised to never work with them. That promise is currently being eroded, but still. But so no one could form a government. So what happened was that the left like coalition had to like extend the coalition kind of to also rely on passive support from the two liberal parties. And so had to give out like a lot of concessions to them regarding like deregulation of the health industry, immigration. There's a lot of like a bit more laissez-faire attitude towards a lot of things, which isn't great. So in the recent election, they have shifted a bit more right. In other elections, they have been a bit more left. Historically, the Social Democrats in Sweden are pretty lefty if they are able to actually do that with like enough mandate, or if they can rule alone with like passive support from the Left Party. The Left Party will like drag them enough to the left to actually be like properly Social Democrats, which is a rare thing to see, but it can happen.
Are you telling me that a European Social Democratic Party has been drifting to the right since the end of the Cold War? Are you honestly expecting me to believe this completely unprecedented thing is happening?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that's kind of been happening.
Lovely.
But they're still like, I mean, the Swedish Social Democrats are still like the biggest party in Swedish politics, and they have always been, which means that there is it kind of stays a bit more Social Democrat, more than a lot of other Social Democrats are. But they have been shifting to the right, and they will probably keep doing that.
Nice. Do public school teachers in Canada have some degree of autonomy shaping their lessons? Are there national/provincial standards like we have in the United States? There is a curriculum, but I think it's like you have to go through all of this stuff by the end of the semester, and that's it. And there's only like in Canada, there's only one standardized test, and it's done in the 10th grade, and it's just literacy. So I think that means that there's a lot more open-endedness. And also it's all run by the provinces, because Canada's a confederacy. So that means that like Ontario has actually not even that, all of the different like townships and stuff like that have their own school boards and stuff. Ontario's curriculum is Ontario's and no one else's. Okay, let's next up is where do you see the discourse around rape culture going, as both mainstream candidates for president have been accused of sexual assault?
I really hate this. I was actually thinking about this today. Like I mean, it's a real like what's it called? Like stepping back a bit, because like when Biden was accused, you could like, it was all because there have always been like this kind of murmuring against Trump being an awful sex fiend, right?
Yeah.
Like constantly like murmuring. And the second Biden got accused of it, that just stopped. Like no one would accuse Trump of anything. Like, well, people would accuse him, but like no one would talk about it anymore.
Yep.
Like,
I hate to find out how partisan the support of victims of sexual assault was. That made me, I like you, I was very disappointed in how that turned out.
And suddenly you would see people who have been like very vocal, claiming that they were like very pro responsibility and like accountability, and the second someone was like went against their specific political interests, it didn't matter, which just means that like because it just revealed that it's all political. It doesn't they don't actually care about it. They just care about the politics of it. Like it works when it's in their political favor, but they will still protect their friends.
Yeah, when the Tara Reid stuff went down. Yeah, when the Tara Reid stuff went down, and you had prominent Joe Biden campaign staffers deleting their Brett Kavanaugh tweets, like I was like, oh, like this is sad. I don't like this at all.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was like, just thinking about Dr. Blasey Ford and like how she would feel about like just realizing that like no, they didn't actually care about what you went through. They just wanted they just wanted points on Trump, and that like I hate it. Like this is why we can never trust liberals. This is what they do. They always do this. I'm sorry. Okay. Speaking of Canadian YouTubers who become white nationalists, why are there so many of them? Yeah, it's kind of concerning, and I don't know why. So let's see.
Oh, we have the same thing here. Don't worry.
Canadian white nationalists. Let's see. We've got Stefan Molyneux. We've got Lauren Southern. We've got Faith Goldie. We've got what the hell? Gavin McInnes. And try to think who's. There's some other one. There's another one. God, it escapes me at the moment. But there's more. I don't know why Canadian, like we don't have many Canadian political YouTubers except for I guess JJ McCullough, who's just like an average normal conservative. It's always like white nationalists. I guess like the only thing I can think of is that it works in our alternative media, just because to be a mainstream conservative in Canada means like there's a lot of censorship on like, or not censorship, that's not the right word, but just like it's considered very uncouth to talk about these kinds of issues in public. So YouTube is a place where a lot of people who have these opinions can talk to a more international audience, where like, because in Canada, if you try to say like white nationalist shit, not only is one, that a crime, but two, like you're not going to get any ground, like no media, like CBC is never going to cover you. You're not going to get any mainstream press because you're probably breaking section something of the Constitution, which bans hate speech. So like there's a lot of reasons why like they would not be able to, you know, get into the mainstream press. But also on top of that, like I don't know, YouTube is just a place that brings out its cranks everywhere. So
yeah, and as I mentioned, like, Sweden has the same thing, and for very similar reasons that you mentioned.
Yeah. I also think that Canadians tend to be a little bit more affluent than Americans, but also speak the same language, don't have an accent, and are on a lot of the same cultural cues. So that just means that I imagine that Canadians are higher than average, like per capita. There are more Canadians who are YouTubers than Americans.
That makes sense.
Okay. How conservative is Switzerland, Mia? I only know about the Nazi gold supporting apartheid South Africa and all the rich people. Not a good combo.
Also, I have no idea how Switzerland is, but like I do know that Swiss politics are weird because they have elections, but they don't really do much because like a lot of stuff is direct democracy shit.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's like whenever there's a big decision, the politicians that exist, they don't actually do that much because they almost always have to be like, well, time for a public vote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's...
I have no idea, unfortunately. I have a lot of guns. I know that.
Yeah,
but they have gun control, but also heavy gun culture. So
they have mandatory military service, and not only they only have a lot of big gun culture. They have mandatory gun ownership. Every household is required to have a gun, and they are required to be trained on it. There's also like some more hardcore shit, like you know how like the Alps basically act as like a fortress for them. The bridges into their country are rigged to explode. Like they are like it's part of their like hardcore neutrality. And I mean, you be a country that's between Germany and France and the size of a thimble, and be like, all right, somehow we have to survive.
Yeah, they also have like bunkers to support like 114% of the population. Mm-hmm. Something like that. Like they have more bunker space than there are people, so literally everyone fits, which is interesting.
Swiss really
because like every new building is like built with an air raid shelter or something.
So yeah, they don't fuck around is the answer.
They decided like 150 years ago that they would never be invaded again, and they kept that.
I admire that's commitment. You know?
Yeah, that's committing to the bit. Swiss Albania. Someone just said Swiss Albania. Thanks, no. Logan Scott Anderson.
Lovely.
10,000 bunkers.
With regards to Puerto Rico, how do American conservatives justify having an overseas colony in 2020? I mean, say what you will about the UK, we let India go in the 1940s. They would argue that, so it's a colony and not a colony. Like Puerto Rico is what's called a Commonwealth, or a American overseas territory, which is it belongs to America but is not of America. So while they can't participate in a lot of American politics, they do also have a level of independence and self-government that a lot of American states do not have. And so that's how people justify it. And also for a lot of reasons, like effectively Puerto Rico is not like Puerto Rico has its own country in the Olympics, and like the debate in Puerto Rico is more between whether they want to become a state or stay a Commonwealth. There's actually not that many people who want independence. That's the main things. What's it called? Just hang on tight. I'm reading a book on it literally right now, and I'm going to be making a video on it on July 31st. So you'll learn all the stuff about Puerto Rico you want. But a lot of conservatives don't talk about Puerto Rican statehood because it just doesn't come up in political discourse a lot. Which it should, because Democrats should be pushing the issue, because they'd stand to benefit quite a bit from it. But yeah. Okay. There are lots of talk about European imperialism and first world problems. Are Swedes ignorant of the conditions of the less fortunate countries? How does that shape policy?
Ooh, interesting question.
Got all that social democracy, but Sweden is a bit of a fortress, isn't it?
It's a bit of a fortress.
I've been told it's really hard to immigrate and become a citizen of Sweden.
It's so well. I kind of want to defend Sweden here a bit, because like Sweden had like when we like during the refugee crisis and stuff like that, we were like one of the least fortressy countries in Europe. Still a fortress, because all of Europe is a fucking fortress when it comes to that shit, which is awful in its own right. But I gotta give it to Sweden like a little bit. Like we did take in a lot of people, which in turn like people didn't like here. But it is like a little bit of a fortress. The more thing that I'm thinking about like is that Sweden has had a lot of difficulties dealing with like its colonial heritage. Because like, you know, the Swedish Empire was a thing that had like, you know, islands in the Caribbean. We had some colonies in North America for a little bit.
You basically colonized your north.
Yeah, and exactly. Yeah, well, like everything north of basically where I live is like also like colonized stolen land that has like been forcibly assimilated into what the idea about Sweden is. Because like even like 300 years ago, northern Sweden wasn't inhabited by the nation of Sweden, so to say. It was considered to be wilderness, even though it had a lot of people living there. and Swedes in general have had a hard time actually dealing with that. So I think Sweden is one of the few countries in the world that has like not signed one of those like UN declaration on indigenous people's rights, because I think it would like semi force Sweden to give some sort of autonomy to the Sami people living in northern Sweden, which like they have no autonomy like at all.
You want a secret pro strat for that from Canada?
Oh God, what's your secret pro strat?
What you do is sign it, but then not do anything about it, and then just let the UN condemn you over and over again and not do anything. That's how Canada does it. It's great.
And it's so fucked up too, because like the Sami nation, they have their own parliament and everything, and they are kind of recognized by the Swedish government, but they have like no control whatsoever. Cops still like burn down like ancestral homesteads and stuff like that all the time, curtail indigenous like farming rights and stuff like that. Only recently we did a very little thing where the Sami people have like rights to reindeer herding, something they've been doing for like thousands of years.
You are allowed to do that thing that you are already doing.
Yes, like very much like that. And Sweden really patted themselves on the back for that one. Like we're good towards the natives.
With a name like Sami people, like maybe okay, this feels like a political landmine, but they sound more like they're Finns.
I think they are somewhat related to Finns, but not like language-wise is what I'm saying, and but not fully.
Okay.
And also Finland has its own awful history with the Sami people. Although a lot of it is like heritage from the Russian Empire and from the Swedish Empire before that.
Lovely. I gotta learn more about fucked up shit happening in very cold places.
Yeah, it's a fascinating history actually, even though it's like kind of monstrous. And like most of it can be traced back to either the Russian Empire being dickheads or the Swedish Empire being dickheads first. We were first. Like and not just the Sami people, like all of our neighbors, the colony in the Caribbean. Like we had some trade stuff in India for like a little bit that also fucked shit up. There's a lot of horrifying history that goes on there, to the point where like we're remembered in a lot of places for being bad. Like the Poles even mention us in their national anthem, talking about how awful we are.
Mm-hmm.
The invaders from the north.
I mean, and that's not even counting what you guys did before 1000 AD.
Oh, we don't count that. That's not Sweden. That's Vikings. What are you talking about?
That's not Sjeland.
We blame all the bad stuff on the Danes.
That's Angerman land. Angry Man land.
Angry Man land is very nice. I still like because of Swedish lettering though. It's like it's become like regretful manland because it's Ångermanland. So it's still like it's very funny. So.
Mm-hmm. Thoughts on Chaz Chop getting shut down?
Who?
The Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone.
Got shut down.
I mean, I didn't expect it to last a super long time. I wasn't on the thing thinking that it was going to be this like thing. But I will say that the reason that it happened, like, it's not a surprise. It happened because the self-defense people of the autonomous zone shot two people who were trying to do a mass shooting in the place, potentially. So we hear. So, yeah. But then they didn't. They shot two people who happened to also be kids. So yeah, it was a super fucked up situation. I could imagine that if they didn't step in at that point, that there would have been heads rolling politically. Yeah. I think that there was some great stuff going on there, and I think that it was already, when it got torn down, it was already well past its prime. The energy had kind of come out of it. But I think that it sets a good precedent of like a way to organize and centralize a protest that could be used in the future.
Yeah. a lot of people compare it with the Paris Commune, which I don't think it's an apt comparison like at all, because it wasn't really. It wasn't the Paris Commune, you know.
Yeah.
It was a funky little thing that lasted for a bit and then got torn down.
Yeah, the Paris Commune was only as successful as it was because it set itself up as the kind of French government was collapsing, and at the same time they were able to commandeer a whole bunch of weapons.
Yeah, like the Ministry for Defense literally flying out of the city in a balloon.
My favorite story. All right, talking about government and contemporary affairs, the world going back to the status quo after the pandemic. Is anything going to really change? There's definitely.
Yeah, you go.
There's definitely going to be the economy is going to take a while to recover. A lot of places are going to be economically depressed as you know the as that happened. But from what I studied about the Spanish flu, like my study of the Spanish flu makes me think that in like 5-10 years you're going to be surprised by how little we think about this period, which is strange.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm thinking that some industries won't survive. Like, I feel like cruises won't really be as big a thing in the future.
Yeah.
Because like the entire cruise industry does like have they started back up? Because like all cruises, like every single cruise liner in the world stopped for a bit, and I'm not sure that they've started up again. I don't think they have, because they would be like death traps. Because it's mostly old people that go on them, and also they're like biologically isolated.
Yeah. They've always been floating petri dishes for like norovirus and stuff like that. But now that if there's like after we've experienced what a real pandemic's like, maybe we'll be a little bit more cautious. Okay.
I also think that like there's not gonna be a going back to normal for a while, especially not with the way like that America is doing things, with the UK is doing things, with Sweden doing things. The virus is still spreading. Like the virus is currently like globally spreading faster than it has ever been. It's just like the peak of it has kind of come and gone in Europe, at least. In America, that we're still in the peak, but people are bored of talking about it, so we're not already talking about it anymore. But like it's still spreading in like Latin America, South America, in Africa, in the Middle East. Like it's just in Russia. Like it's spreading significantly, and a lot of areas are bungling up the management of it. So this like it's not going to go away. Like we're not going to go back to normal by like December. Like I would doubt that we would be back to normal like this time next year. Like maybe some places will be, some countries will be, but I feel like a lot of places will still be like heavily struggling, at least until we have a vaccine.
Yeah. I think that Canada is probably about a month away from being about as back to normal as you can be without a vaccine. Like
and you know, all of this is presupposing that the virus doesn't mutate, which is good, and suddenly could become even more deadly, and then we would have to go into even harsher lockdown.
Or more likely, with how viruses work, probably becoming a less deadly version that like if it wanted to become an endemic virus that we're not actively trying to wipe out, it would just become like, you know, a cold or a flu. That's why those viruses are so successful, because they don't kill you. That's the trick. If they kill you, then we try to beat it, and that's not good evolutionarily.
Anyone who's played Plague Inc. can tell you that one.
Did you want to do a video on the international brigades of the Spanish Civil War? I kind of did one on anarchists, but I haven't. I don't know. I definitely think that it was one of my first videos, and I definitely think I should be going back to the Spanish Civil War and do it in a more better way that my current skills could hit, because it's a big topic and one that I think I definitely need to get into. Did they stop atheism as unstoppable? They did. They did stop atheism as unstoppable.
That's wild.
The DreamWorks.
They were an icon for all 25 minutes I've known them as.
Why is Sargon still on YouTube? Good question.
He is very skilled at veiling what he is saying. Like you have to, in order to be banned, you kind of have to say things outright. Like Stefan Molyneux said some whack shit, like straight out, which means you can get banned. However, in like, if you don't say the racist eugenicist stuff directly, then they can't get you.
I have been trying to, with what little contacts I have on YouTube, I have been trying to get Sargon banned by yelling at them about him for years. Like talking about the time that I last year at VidCon, because there was a VidCon last year, RIP.
God. Yeah, RIP.
I was asking, I basically just like flat out was like, hey, how come you didn't ban Dave Rubin? Or what's Steven Crowder? That was the big thing going on at the time.
Yeah.
Or like, I think that when Sargon, what's it called? Just flat out did like a very threatening, aggressive move towards Anita Sarkeesian at VidCon 2017. That should have been the last straw for YouTube, but they don't care because
it really should have.
Because that was I talked to her last year. We had a bit of a chat at her book signing, and like that shit was creepy, man.
Yeah.
She's God, Anita Sarkeesian's got to be one of the most resilient people I've ever met because she was able to process it in a way that I'm like, oh God. Because I said that we met at a party, but also it was the day before that happened. So maybe you don't remember me. And she's like, oh yeah, that was a fucked up thing. What would Truth and Reconciliation with Indigenous Canadians look like? We actually already tried doing one of those for residential schools. I would like a bigger one for sure. But I don't know. I don't really have anything strong to talk about Truth and Reconciliation as a concept because I know that it's a video I want to make someday. It's why I didn't mention it in the South Africa video. So hold on to that for a while until I get around to making that video. If that makes sense. Is BPS still a thing that exists? I don't even know what BPS is.
BPS? So, the first thing I thought was BTS, but that's a different thing.
Yeah, BTS still exists, and they're defeating white nationalism abroad, or their fans are anyway. Yeah, K-pop stans, man. The secret allies that we never thought we'd have is
furries, juggalos, and K-pop stans.
That's the voice of the revolution. All right. Suppose settler colonial states like Canada were dismantled. Would settlers keep living there but under Indigenous law, or would they have to more radically reorganize the way they live in new Indigenous countries? I think that they would probably have to be radically reorganized. If anything, I think that most Indigenous nations would make the argument that they would not be like mass exodus of the whites. That's ethnic cleansing now. But definitely renegotiating the way that we live in accordance with the indigenous governments of that place, whether that is making separate nations that are in some sort of partnership, or whether that is a more open and inclusive and indigenous friendly culture that does not have the legacy of settler colonialism. That's a possibility. It's something that has never been done before. So it's obviously something that has a lot of different ideas that I would love to explore.
Yeah, I feel like the most immediate thing that what kind of decolonization means is just like the ending of like the active, continuous fucking over of indigenous communities overall. Because that's what a lot of like settler states are like actively, continuously doing today. It's not as if we fixed it and now we're gonna like fix the errors of the past. We still have to fix the errors of the present, and I think fixing that is a good initial first step. Yep. Love to take it someday.
Yeah, curious about how right wingers have been talking about recovery in their respective countries. America here, in Canada specifically, for the most part, everybody has been pretty normal about lockdown. Pretty much everybody, it's not been made a partisan issue like it has in the States. There have been, though, because American political culture bleeds into ours all the time, there have been many cases of like reopening protests, but they're not linked to any like they're not backed by anybody prominent or anything like that. It's very much like a Like there's maybe conservatives are more concerned about the debt than anything, but like even our conservative, like Ontario is run by a conservative premier, and Ontario has been extremely cautious about reopening. So aside from a few cranks who have been protesting, it's not really like been that big a deal. How about Sweden?
we haven't locked down. Conservatives are fine.
Why? We're not going to start now.
Yeah, like we're. Someone please help us.
What's your cases like right now, though?
What?
The cases, like what? How many cases? Like how is it growing?
They're still. Let me double check. Actually, I think they're like slightly gone down, but not really. Let me check. Coronavirus.
What's the logic that Sweden's going for just doing nothing?
So they were hoping to get herd immunity early on, and that didn't work. There was also this idea that Sweden is like natural, like that we're naturally somehow. Why can't I get a list of countries? There we go. That's like Swedes are like naturally socially distancing anyway, which I think is a weird. I think that's weird.
So feeling like you guys are all awkward.
Oh
right?
my god, we had 5,500 deaths for like we're a pretty small country. Holy shit! I think that's like 10 times all the. I think that's 10 times the other countries. So we had our worst day like a week ago.
Oh dear.
Never mind. I thought that like our curve was flattening. No, it's getting actively worse.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. The deaths have been going down like significantly though, and I think that's something that has been happening more and more, which I'm happy about. So maybe it's just testing that's going up because like our deaths peaked in April, and now they're kind of getting like pretty low.
Yeah.
So
we're getting there. We're getting to like the point where we at a peak had maybe like 400 cases a day, but now we're like down to like 130, I think was on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. So I think that like I think like medical professionals know way better how to treat it, how to treat the symptoms. There's like this steroid thing that's better, but like cases in Sweden are still like spiking more than they had before. But maybe that's because of testing. But like there have never been a mask mandate in Sweden. I feel like I'm the only one who wears a mask. There had never been a lockdown. Bars have never closed. So like conservatives here have never been like no one has really been like open up because we never closed down. So
yeah,
we've kind of been just business as usual, which was really weird in April when like people were dying. But yeah,
it's such a strange way to respond. Is it like, are they paying any political costs? Like, are people mad about this, or is it just like,
No, people are fine.
Okay.
Support for the government actually rose like significantly in April, because the rest of the world was closing down and Sweden wasn't, and everyone was like, "Yes, nice, we're kicking ass, we're doing it. We don't even have to lock down." And like 400 people like kept dying a day for like a week.
Oh god.
And people were just like winning, whereas all of our neighbors have like 1/10 of our death rate. Not just 10th of death, but like 10th of death rate, just because.
Our point now is we're getting to the point where the disease is going down pretty much everywhere except for Quebec. I haven't really looked closely, but Quebec is doing really, really bad at it. But it seems like we're probably not too far away from most things being normal-ish, as normal as it can. As I said, as normal as it can be before there's a vaccine. Where like restaurants are planning on reopening probably in the next month or two with like half capacity, and like there's the only thing that's going to be weird is that there's no sports, no concerts, no events. Those require a vaccine.
I think sports here have also been shut down. Like some big like social events are also like shut down, but like life in general is what's keep going.
Yeah.
Sorry, keep it.
And I think we're probably going to finish, or the one thing that's going to affect us, like I've already had 3 trips canceled because of COVID, for various things, conferences, conventions, one vacation. But the next thing is going to be that the border with the United States is probably not going to reopen for a long time. And
Yeah.
I spend my holidays in America because my wife is a immigrant from the United States, and so that's gonna be a weird thing. We're probably gonna have to do Christmas here in Canada, which we haven't done in a few years. So that's a thing.
Yeah.
Let's have a more upbeat question. I want police unions to be abolished, but I'm worried that doing so will legitimize the idea of abolishing unions in general. Like, what if some future Republican administration says, well, if we can get rid of police unions, why not get rid of air traffic controllers union? Do you think that's a real worry?
Maybe, but I think this is more like an inter labor movement issue than more like a mainstream political one.
Yeah.
Because we can still advocate for union rights while excluding police unions from the general labor movement. The only reason police unions even exist in the first place is because they are like they're very powerful for what, like, as an institution, like police, and politicians just will give cops whatever they want because the cops will threaten like anarchy and crime if they don't get what they want. It's harder for other unions to kind of sway that power, and they've used that power to kind of nestle in police unions with a like wider labor movement, both to support their own unions, but also to weaken like proper labor unions because cops aren't really friends of other labor unions. So there's this.
There's got to be a way to reform unions in a way that, like, hey, I like the idea of better workers' rights. I don't like the idea of a union protecting people who murder people.
Yeah. Because that's what police unions do now. They're thugs.
Yeah.
And it's like the only acceptable union that America has. Because like almost every police precinct has a union. Like the unions are very powerful in America. When the police unions specifically, not other unions, but only police unions.
Yeah. Man, I really... Because, like, unions are basically the only way that we would ever be able to have any sort of collective political power, and it's just so wing-clipped, and it makes me very sad. Yeah. Another upbeat question. What do you think about the UK's situation with and the Labour Party right now?
Oh, where the new Labour leader is, like, disavowing the Black Lives Matter movement?
Yeah. Labour's doing great.
I don't get why they do this, because like Corbyn like got elected on a left-wing platform with a higher mandate than any other Labour politician, like I think basically in history, but like in terms of percentages and in like mass numbers for his time, and he swelled the party membership by millions. So there is obviously like a support for like a leftist. But yeah, for like a leftist movement, you know, like for a leftist aligned politician. So I don't understand why Labour now is like shifting towards trying to appease the centrists or like to the right wing, like be like just agreeing with the government on everything.
Mm-hmm. Like it's pretty clear that Brexit's basically what destroyed Labour's victory last year.
Yeah. Oh, Brexit! It killed Labour. Like the entire wind in the Labour movement just got snuffed by Brexit.
They tried to make the 2019 election about anything but Brexit, and Brexit just was too big. Which was a miscalculation. I imagine that would have been better. But obviously, like the party's just full of people who had knives out for Corbyn the whole time. We learned that they were even undermining him during the elections. So like. Yeah, this is like a party coup, kind of. And it's going to make them less electable, and it's probably going to make them lose more elections. Yeah,
I'm
I am sad for the fate of the UK with this kind of
Keir Starmer stuff.
Keith Starmer bullshit. Yeah,
Okay. Let's.
it's not a good like. What? Why was he elected leader? Also, and I just remember them bragging about like Keith Starmer has won with more votes than Corbyn, but like with a way lower percentage of the votes because Corbyn swelled the membership of the party so much.
Mm-hmm.
So like, if you win 10 votes in a party of 20 people, and then you win 20 votes in a party of 50 people, like you don't have a bigger mandate. Like he has less of a mandate and is also like a worse person. Goddamn.
UK, like what's it called? America and the UK are the two countries where it's like, why can't you do anything normal? Just do one normal thing, please.
Please.
Like
Can't
America,
even
like
democracy, right? Like you both have first past the post systems, but in different ways.
we're dealing with a pandemic, America. Can you just be normal once? And they're just like, I'm going to start a civil war and convince us all that that wearing masks is communism. It's like, God damn it.
What? Yeah.
Should we talk about groups of people who left a country under problematic circumstances but had ties to colonial/bad regimes? I'm thinking about right-wing Cubans, Pied Noir, white Zimbabweans, or Germans in Eastern Europe post-World War II. I know that in these cases, some were kicked out and others left willingly, but how do we discuss these cases? I wrote about this a little bit for the Cold War, where, like, we don't talk about this over much, but, like, in Eastern Europe, after World War II, there was basically an ethnic cleansing campaign of ethnic Germans from Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
Like, they were just basically brutally forced out of, like, Czechoslovakia, Austria, Poland, etc.
Yeah. The only exceptions, I believe, were made to people who could like actively demonstrate that they were like anti-Nazi, which is really hard to do to have been able to prove like when if you live under a totalitarian regime, to like accumulate evidence that you are like a resistance member or like an anti-Nazi.
Yeah.
And even if you were, like, you're still going to live in a society that is very anti-German, which, is on one hand understandable, but on the other hand, like, it's not, there are, it's not the fault of resistance members that the Nazis were bad.
So,
quite the opposite, actually.
So, I also knew a PhD student who was studying who was that person who took over Uganda? Who was that big leader in Uganda? He was like president for like 1 million years.
Mugabe? No, that's not him. No, I'm
going to figure this one out.
gonna figure this out too.
So his previous leader preceded by... I'm trying to remember who...
Oh, Idi Amin.
Idi Amin, yeah. So when he came to power, one of the things he did is, he basically said all colonizers need to leave, all of them. But what the student that I knew was talking about was that he was that by what Idi Amin meant also was to kick out all of the Indians that the British had brought in during the colonial regime. And so what happened is there was this massive South Asian Ugandan refugee crisis, and a lot of them came to Canada. That's why we have a big community of them here, which are people of Indian ancestry who lived in Uganda. And so, I do think that, like, I mean, I'm very much against ethnic cleansing in any case. That's just like my thing.
Hot
take. I do think that there is these are obviously complicated things. It's like talking about all of the rich sugar plantation slave owners who got kicked out of Cuba after the revolution. Yeah, I don't know what to talk about. I don't know, or white people who lived in Zimbabwe before the revolution. Like, what do you say about those kinds of people? I don't know. They're real. I don't know.
like, I think the idea is that like we can write injustices without causing further cruelty, right? Like I think that cruelty is not an active ingredient in restorative justice.
Yeah.
Necessarily, like at points some cruelty will be required, like to a slave owner will think it is cruel to free their slaves, and in that case, depending on the perspective, that cruelty is required. But I think it would be like go too far to then. I mean, depending on the crime, I guess. Actually, I was about to say an example that I don't actually agree with. It really would depend on the crime,
Mm-hmm.
And but like, and I think a good rule of thumb is like ethnic cleansing bad, but also many things bad. Slavery also bad, very bad.
Ethnic cleansing bad, I think, is a good way to end on. So Hot take. Okay, so before I go and find a Twitch channel for us to raid, would you like to tell everybody where Mia content can be consumed?
Yes, you can consume Mia content on youtube.com/c/Mia Mulder or on twitter.com/potatopolitics, where I tweet too much.
You tweet?
I tweet sometimes. I have quotes, but I will never tweet twice.
Alrighty, I'm going to let's raid Lumiru. We haven't done that yet.
Let's do that.
All right, everybody, go see a wonderful for everyone on Twitch. Go see a wonderful and talented non-binary streamer who does great stuff. You'll have a great time. Don't worry. All right, everybody else, have a good one.